And welcome to another episode of the Two Fans Podcast. I'm your co-host, Joshua Ament.
And I'm your other co-host, Ari Jesselson.
And we've got, I can see him reaching for the clown horn already. Monday recap.
Yeah, the highlight of the week where we run down the sports stories that a lot of us might have missed, and we like to bring it to you.
Yeah, and what a week this has been. I know we've been talking a lot recently, like, there's been a little quiet weeks. You have one big splash in there. This week, we have a lot of stuff to get to, and honestly, I don't even know if we're going to get to it all.
Well, we gotta make it quick then.
Or split this into two parts. Who knows? We've done that before. I'm not going to put it out of the question, but I think we'll start with what may or may not be the biggest deal. It really depends on where you put your focus on. But this was, if I'm not mistaken, this was actually a couple hours after we recorded last week's Monday recap, when Dak Prescott finally, after years of discussion between him and the Cowboys front office, they've extended him 4 years for $160 million total.
Yep, he's gonna make $75 million in the first year, and man got paid. He's a good player. Obviously, he was having an MVP season before he got hurt, and I don't know. I think it's actually a justified contract, because I feel like also now when we see a lot of contracts, we always say, "Oh, that's way too much." Like going back to Patrick Mahomes, who made $500 million. That was way too much. We see a lot of these guys that they get overshot for. I feel like this Dak deal is kind of fair. I feel like he didn't lose anything, but they still have some room to expand and build around him.
I would have to disagree. Do keep in mind, he's being paid on average $40 million a year. And that's a lot, especially like it's 80% of what Mahomes got. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but it's the second highest average annual salary of any NFL player right now. And in terms of, especially with, I'm generally in the camp of don't pay your quarterback lucrative deals, because when the last time a quarterback making $30 million won a Super Bowl? It's a trick question. It never happened. And that's my point. Like, if you want to win, you have to make sure that your quarterback's talent is really outplaying his salary. I think this is a high bar for Dak to reach. Of course, with the weapons he has on offense, it's doable. But at the same time, now what are you going to do with your defense? It wasn't that good last year, and they don't really have the cap space anymore to improve it.
Yeah, and I also, just adding on to that, I'm a Dak supporter. I think he's good. I thought he got a lot of hate before he went down. But another thing is, remember, he's coming off an injury. He's coming off a year where he only played like 5 games, went down, and we got to see what happens. For what we know, this contract could blow up in his face and blow up in the faces of everyone who's around it. Well, I think Dak deserved to get paid, though, and that's that. I think that there's definitely a high ceiling for him, but he's definitely someone who should have got paid and finally got paid. Now, the Cowboys, there is a lot of issues in that, but we saw a lot of those issues when Dak went down, when they didn't have a reliable quarterback, despite all those weapons with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael, I can't remember his last name right now.
Gallup,
thank you. You got Tony
Pollard. Makes
Pollard.
sense. Probably one of the most underrated receivers in the league.
Definitely. I think he's really underrated, and I just proved it by not knowing his name. I think you have a decent run game, and now Tony Pollard stepping up, who might be able to replace Ezekiel Elliott. We definitely saw before with Andy Dalton, Ben DiNucci, and all those guys, when they tried to step up on the field, the Cowboys couldn't produce. They really fell apart, and we saw a lot of woes on the offensive side, a side which we all knew should have been better than they were. I think if Dak steps up to this plate, this contract is justifiable.
Yeah, I should also clarify, of course, I'm talking about from sort of the team's perspective when I say don't pay the quarterbacks. Of course, from Dak's perspective, like, good for him for getting paid, just in terms of the sort of whole economics of football in terms of are they being paid too much as far as market. Good for Dak. This is not meant to be a knock on him. He gets what he deserves.
Oh, definitely. I think he's definitely someone who definitely deserved it. And only time will tell if this contract was justifiable. But as we've seen with trends in the past, as you said, paying the quarterback isn't always a smart move.
Yeah, of course. Last year, Dak of course started the season on the franchise tag. A bunch of different teams have been using their franchise tags this year, including not limited to the Broncos with Justin Simmons, the Buccaneers with Chris Godwin, and I think the most interesting story within this. Actually, you know what? No, I will get to that. I'll get to that later. I think I'll talk about a couple of actually let's go to the two Super Bowl teams, the Chiefs and the Bucks, because they both made some moves recently. One makes a lot of sense, the other does not. Can we just like recap the Super Bowl real quick? What happened?
Yeah, definitely. And I want to go into this afterwards. I had a pretty nice segment, but this is a problem when you overpay your quarterback sometimes is you don't leave room for a lot of people. As we know, and we did recap this, Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, two of the main guys that keep Alex Smith protected, weren't playing in the Super Bowl. Okay, you say it then, because I feel like
I mean, yeah, they did keep Alex Smith protected in
I'm sorry,
2018.
Patrick Mahomes, who kept. I miss Alex Smith, man. I want to do good. I want to step on a field. I just wanted that redemption story. I don't like. I didn't talk about this yesterday last week.
Wait, hold on. No, they kept Alex Smith protected in 2017. I'm sorry. Here I am making your mistake, correcting your mistake. But go on.
Yeah. So, Eric Fisher, Mitchell Schwartz, two of the big reasons Patrick Mahomes has been so protected, didn't play in the Super Bowl. As we saw in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was the most pressured quarterback in Super Bowl history, who had to run for over 500 yards while trying to avoid the Buccaneers defense. Recently, on 4 days ago, actually, the Chiefs released Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz to save some cap room.
I mean, listen, I am. This is one of the reasons. Again, I say because people think that the quarterback is the entire offense, but they always overlook the offensive line. We saw exactly what happened with Mahomes without an offensive line in the Super Bowl, and it is not pretty. And I get it that the Chiefs are in cap hell, and it is brutal, especially this year when the cap is going down. But this is the most vital part of any offense, a great offensive line. And when you get rid of two of the five guys, granted, I know Mitchell Schwartz was out for most of the season. Mike Rummers filled in pretty well, but Eric Fisher, that's just no excuse for that.
Definitely, and that's a big issue when you overpay these guys. Like Tyree, I know their offense is great, like Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. They definitely did deserve to get paid. But look what's happening now. And there's reports that Chiefs center Austin Reeder is most likely to leave in free agency. So now that's three of the key guys who help out, who protect Patrick. They're now gone. We saw what happened when a lot of key guys are missing before. We saw what happened in the Super Bowl. Who's to say that won't translate to the regular season? As far as we know, the Chiefs need to do something quick on their offensive line before Patrick Mahomes, something happens to him. That's all I got to say with that.
Yeah, and I just want to look at the other end, because we talked about, of course, the Chiefs got absolutely obliterated by that offensive line in the Super Bowl by that Buccaneers defense. And the one thing that the Buccaneers have made a priority already, locking in two of those key players on defense for the foreseeable future in Levante David, and just a couple hours ago, Shaq Barrett.
Definitely. I think that's two big key pieces for how well this Bucs team is going to do in the future. But a lot of that came with Tom Brady reworking his contract, which opened $19 million in cap space. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why Brady is the GOAT. He doesn't want to get paid the big money, because he knows with the money, they could help build around him. They could add on to pieces. They could keep key pieces in. With the Bucs defense now.
Oh, sorry.
With the Bucs defense now, you're keeping a lot of key parts for the reason why they were so good. You're just building on top of their success already.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in there a little bit prematurely, but like you said with Tom Brady, he was notorious for accepting team-friendly deals with the Patriots, which let them build around and win 6 Super Bowls with him. And that's another, again, point to, you can either pay the quarterback or be a Super Bowl caliber team, but not necessarily both at the same time. But yeah, and it looks like Tom Brady's going to do a similar thing, allow the Bucks to free up cap space to keep the core of that defense around. And that's generally one of 3 things that just about every single player you can think of has done this offseason. It is that if you can think of a player, they've either A, reworked their deal to create more cap space, B, taken a team-friendly deal that just pays them less, or C, just been cut to save cap space.
Yeah, and I just gotta say, this is why Brady's the GOAT. You know, he's taking team-friendly deals that help everything build around him.
Yeah, absolutely. One more thing. Okay, no, it's not one more thing, but I think the biggest thing we haven't touched on yet is just how deep this wide receiver free agency class is. You have, I'll just list 4 names, and there are a lot of others that can make an impact. But T.Y. Hilton, Kenny Galladay, A.J. Green, Golden Tate. Those are the first 4 I have on a list. It's probably like 10 or 15 long.
Just adding to that, Juju Smith-Schuster and Corey Davis.
All right, I'll do you a couple better. Marvin Jones, Don Brown, Sammy Watkins, DeMarcus Robinson, Curtis Samuel,
Will Fuller,
and possibly Allen Robinson.
Wait, but I thought Allen Robinson was franchise tagged.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And then, according to Jeremy Fowler, he says, and I quote, Allen Robinson, I'm told, has 0 plans to sign his franchise tag in the immediate future. So considering their contract negotiations in the fall did not go well, this could drag out a long while where Robinson doesn't show up, doesn't sign that tag. As a Bears fan, very frustrated in how little was paid attention to the offense the past couple of years, thinking, oh yes, if we bring in Nick Foles, that will solve all of our problems. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Just let household burn to the ground at this point. I'm just like so done. Allen Robinson absolutely deserves to be on anywhere else, even back in Jacksonville.
As a Browns fan, my deepest condolences go out to you. But yeah, it's crazy to see how there's a lot of faults in the Bears system, and everyone's still blaming Mitch about it. I know you're a big Mitch fan. I think he gets overhated. And we see a lot, day by day, we see a lot of cracks coming out with the Bears organization. Like, look at what happened recently with Kyle Long coming out of retirement. Just because
that was what I was going to get to next.
So you talk about it.
Yeah, he had said at some point, either during the season and last offseason, whatever it was, where he said, like, if he were to come back out of retirement to play for the Bears, it would have to be with a different front office, which really, this is the offensive captain from a couple of years ago who's just blasting the organization, tells you just how bad it really is. Now, when you see him actually come out of retirement to play with anyone but the Bears, just goes to show you.
Yeah, listen, as a Browns fan, my deepest condolences go out to you, and hopefully something's got to change in that front office. I know we said this time and time again that the QB room, getting Nick Foles, a lot of that issues, they're not the big issues that Bears are facing. That's not something they need to fix. Right now, if I'm just an outsider, I got to say, okay, this front office doesn't know what they're doing. They're dragging players out of this team. There's literally a guy who came out of retirement just so he doesn't have to play with the team. He retired just so he wouldn't play with the team. That even as just a fan of football, you could tell that there's a picture that's not right with it.
Yeah. One thing, Brian Pace, if you are listening, and if you are listening, first of all, why are you listening to this and not calling Eric Fisher? Because the offensive line, specifically the offensive tackles, are the biggest holes on your offense, and nothing will change until it gets fixed.
Yeah, they definitely got to fix that. So, but speaking of offensive tackles, Titans trade Isaiah Wilson to the Dolphins. As we know, Wilson really didn't produce on the field, only played 4 snaps, and there was a lot of controversy with him in the locker room.
Yeah, again, I will also say we've also talked about sort of how rookies have kind of gotten a bad rap recently, where everyone thinks that they're going to develop quickly or become impact starters in their first year. Of course, Isaiah Wilson, a late first round pick, was seen as more of a project, and so sort of the Titans sort of giving up on him after 1 year. I mean, I really guess, because I don't know what it was like in the locker room. If he really was that bad a character, then I guess. But the Dolphins have definitely bought low, and I think especially with that young team there, especially when we talk about the wide receiver class this year, that they can sign a couple of those guys, draft Jamar Chase, I don't know, develop Myles Gaskin a little bit more, then they could be a very formidable team, or so I would say, until I just realized again, oh yeah, what happened with Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, but that's the thing I still don't get, especially the drop of Kyle Van Noy. Really stupid, really holds back the Dolphins' success. And now that's going to be more people blaming Tua, who a rookie who definitely doesn't deserve the hate. But for Isaiah Wilson's case, he had a lot of problems with the law, got arrested a few times, and I guess they just had enough of it. But just staying to the Dolphins, this again, why drop Kyle Van Noy? He was on his first year in the team. He was a captain of the team, and you could just rework his contract. The only thing that I like at this is that I said that I know I said this before, and we had some things, but the Jets have a better chance in the AFC East now.
I mean, really, the big winner of all this is the Buffalo Bills. I should also say, we talk about that wide receiver class. They are losing two of those key pieces to that deep wide receiver core in Zay Jones and John Brown. So I think that re-signing at least one of them should be a priority for them. But they've also kept a lot of their team. They've re-signed guys like Matt Milano and Vernon Butler to some cheaper deals, and of course, nothing. There's still a lot of continuity in that offense. Brian Dable was not lost to head coaching, which should definitely keep their offense as dominant as it was last year.
Definitely, they kept a lot of pieces. I know they just signed John Felicino. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. And for the receivers, it's just a matter of who you want to keep back. But the Bills are in a strong case.
Yeah. All right. One more final thing that I hate to announce as a Bears fan, but kind of expected at this point. That after the Packers made the surprising move not to franchise tag Aaron Jones, my hopes got up a little bit. Oh yeah, maybe he can leave, and then maybe the Packers won't be as good. You know, like I don't expect the Bears to win the NFC North, but I would rather the Packers lose it at this point. Unfortunately for me, but fortunately for Packers fans, he recently re-signed with the Packers on a pretty big deal. So good for them, I guess.
Yeah, he signed a 4-year, $48 million deal. And two big questions I have is, why not franchise tag him, since franchise tag for running backs was $8.6 million for 2021, and what happened to AJ? What's going to happen to AJ Dillon? Did he just ruin his pick? Did he just ruin your first and second round pick for right now?
I mean, I think if because we've seen flashes from what AJ Dillon can do, that sort of 1-2 punch there is going to be deadly to any team, really. And I think especially sort of when you look at the draft, when they made the mistake of not drafting a wide receiver one too many times. Unfortunately for me, I have to admit that the Packers front office actually kind of somewhat sort of knows what they're doing. And so I don't think that they'll make that same mistake again. They'll actually patch up the one big hole that they have on their team. And more rough times as a Bears fan.
Yeah, especially since this upcoming draft has a pretty deep wide receiver class. Not as deep as last year, but there's still a lot of talks about it. I know it's mainly focused on the quarterbacks this year, rightfully so, but the wide receivers are kind of underrated this year. So let's see what happens with the Packers. Because all we know, they might draft Jordan Love's successor in this year's draft.
Oh, would I love to see that, because really, like, whenever we talk about an NFC North team baffling everyone by trading up in the first round to draft a quarterback, that's really what we should be talking about. At least the Bears drafted a need. But we've talked about this free agency for a bit too long. When you consider that March Madness is starting.
Yes, but I feel like we're just missing two big stories in football. Then we'll go to March Madness.
What am I missing?
Jonnu Smith just today signed a 4-year, $50 million deal with the Patriots, and Drew Brees retired after 20 years in the NFL.
I legitimately cannot believe, like, there's been so much this week that, like, of course, in any other week, I would have immediately thought, yeah, that's one of the top stories. But not to discredit his career or anything, but man, we will remember you, Drew.
Definitely. Drew Brees definitely going to be in Canton in 2026, the first year he's eligible, and just had an incredible career. So there's not much more you could say about his career. It's just been what everything wanted. I just whatever he wanted to be. His 80,000 plus NFL passing yards. That's number one in history. He has a Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP, multiple 5,000-yard seasons, and just a great player. Just a great player. You always hear great stories about the guy, and yeah, see you in Canton in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, with, again, like you kept seeing, like, even through this year, he and Tom Brady sort of battling for the sort of all-time passing records. Unfortunately for him, it looks like Brady still has a little bit left in the tank. That he will probably come out on top. But as far as when you look at greatest players to never win an MVP, that conversation starts and ends, at least in the NFL, with Drew Brees.
Definitely. But even without the MVP, still a fantastic career.
Absolutely. But yeah, March Madness is starting. Probably, again, should put a disclaimer before these kind of segments that we don't know too much about college sports
or basketball sometimes.
Yeah, that's
sports in general sometimes.
Yeah, I can't really argue. But do you have a couple of thoughts on yeah, of course you have to have a couple of thoughts on March Madness. It's March Madness.
Okay, Gonzaga, obviously undefeated, definitely going to have a deep push. But wouldn't it be funny if they lose to the number 16 Norfolk State or / Appalachian State? I just think it would just be funny for this undefeated team to just lose to a number 16 team. But obviously, there's not much I can say. I think UConn definitely going to go far as usual. I know their women's league is much better than their men's league, but they still have some pushes. Michigan is going to be interesting to watch. I just feel like Michigan sports never has I don't know, they always find a way to flop. Baylor and Hartford. Hartford made a surprising push. This is the first time in a while that they made a March Madness tournament. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see. North Carolina, obviously they haven't been as good. I mean, they're still pretty good, but you know what I mean. They're not the North Carolina as in previous year. Duke is not on this, which
yeah, Duke. This is the
ahead.
first year. This is the first year Duke is not in the bracket for the first time Since 1995. Of course, they were not necessarily having all that good of a regular season, and then had to drop out of the ACC tournament due to COVID.
Yeah, and despite the COVID, it's kind of nice not seeing Duke on this. I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, if it's Duke, we kind of everyone expects them to go far, and I'm more of an underdog story. Illinois versus Drexel. I'm kind of surprised that Drexel made it to this tournament. I don't know. I just think that it's just crazy they went this far. Good for them. Loyola College. I know that's the one with the nuns. So, and we've all seen those clips in the previous year's March Madness. That's why they're always a fan favorite for some people. And obviously, I got to rock with Iona because Jonathan Stankos, he was on the show before.
Yeah, I'm sure he is absolutely thrilled to see the Gills there as a 15 seed in March Madness. Can't probably should have at least.
Yeah, number 15. They're going to play the number 2 Alabama.
Yeah, I can you have the football program and then a 2 seed in basketball. Like can we limit it to 1?
Yeah, I got a good proposal. How's about the basketball players have to play a football game twice a month, and the football guys got to play a basketball game twice a month also? Kind of even it out.
It's an idea. It is an idea. One more. Yeah, I keep saying one more thing, and then I talk about like 5 different things. As far as because usually, of course, you have the 32 conference champions that clinch their ticket into March Madness. This year, it's only 31, after the Ivy League decided that they would not only not hold a championship tournament, but would not send any of their teams to the overall tournament.
Yeah, and it was kind of surprising to see that the Ivy Leagues wouldn't send in some teams. But with the state of the world right now, with a lot of unconcerns, it's really up in the air what most teams want to do. Well, a lot of people are getting vaccinated. A lot of people are wearing masks more. They're taking it more seriously, especially since we've been in this situation for over a year. It really could have went 50-50 for what they would have done. And in all honesty, I'm kind of surprised, but seeing it, just thinking about it for a few seconds, even a few minutes, that's not that surprising to see why they wouldn't go in this tournament.
Yeah, again, we do say that we don't know a whole lot, but I can say at least a couple of players that you might want to look out for. Of course, on Iowa, they're 2 seed. You have Luca Garza, pretty strong candidate for Player of the Year. If you're looking more towards the draft, then you probably want to look at Oklahoma State and project the number 1 overall pick, Cade Cunningham. If you're looking at a couple of the 1 seeds in the Big Ten, you have Michigan and Illinois, both as 1 seeds from the Big Ten. You want to look out for some star power there. You have on Michigan Hunter Dickinson, and on Illinois Ayo Dosunmu.
Well, I don't know who any of them are. If they're in a top rank, they definitely deserved it. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with March Madness. I got to do some more research on these players and maybe have a reason to finally watch one of these games.
Yeah, I mean, come on, who doesn't at least watch, like, of course, I'm not the biggest college basketball fan, but I mean, just about every March, of course, except last one. It's just, especially the first round, you have those 2 days and you have like the back to back to back to back, and you're just following all of like the close games, because for whatever reason, every single one of those games just seems to be so close. And it's just always like it doesn't matter what's going on with school, with the world, or anything. Just those 2 days especially, I'm just dropping what I'm doing and watching something.
I've never watched a college basketball game. I've never watched March Madness, so maybe we all get our different things, but maybe this is the year I finally tune in.
Yeah, especially of course when you have a team like Gonzaga entering the bracket 26-0, and could be the first undefeated team in the NCAA to finish the whole season undefeated since 1976.
Listen, you know me. I want them to lose to number 16 Norfolk Appalachian State. That's the only reason I might watch this game. But Gonzaga, if they go undefeated, tremendous for them. They definitely deserved it. They're definitely going to be a favorite to go all the way. But I just think it's funny if they lose around one. So
Yeah, I will say I don't know much about this year, but I do know next year if nothing changes, I'll probably be rooting for Duke and one of their biggest recruits, AJ Griffin from White Plains, New York.
woo! And we're Westchester. He's on my planes. I'm near a show, so we gotta go with our locals.
Yeah, only reason I mention it, I can't say that I know. Actually, no, I would know like one other guy from that recruiting class. But we've probably talked about this too much for what we know. So I guess you want to make one last pick. Who you think's gonna win it all?
As someone who I gotta go with, I don't know who honestly. I know Iona. They don't have a great tendency of going that far, even losing round one a few times. Most likely Gonzaga. I just think it's funny if they lose to North Appalachian State who's ranked number 16. But Gonzaga's gonna go far, so that's gonna be interesting. Hopefully they can pull off that undefeated season. But again, I'm not big on college basketball, but it's definitely gonna be interesting to see. And yeah, that's all I get. That's all I got to say about it. It's just gonna be fun and interesting.
Yeah, of course, it's hard to go really against an undefeated team, but hey, the '06 Patriots happened, so anything is possible. I will of course say that I'll probably be rooting for Iona because I don't really have much of a horse otherwise in this race. Wow, so I just realized that we just covered the big two stories, but there's still a lot of other things that have happened this week that we definitely still do need to cover. So what do you say that we make this a two-parter?
I said, let's do it. Two-part Monday recap. Let's go.
Yeah, may need to rebrand there a Monday and Tuesday recap, but whatever. With that being said, thank you so much for listening to us and bearing with us. We do this every single day, Monday through Thursdays, Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or something you want us to talk about, you can always email us at twofanspodcast@gmail.com. Number 2, fanspodcast @gmail.com. And as always, until next time, we will talk to you then.